Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows a single mom who never expected to meet a billionaire CEO. When their worlds collide, sparks fly, but things aren't always what they seem. Can a cold-hearted billionaire really find love, or is it just a fleeting moment? What happens when he sees her struggle and decides to step in? You won't believe what unfolds next. Let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories. Stay tuned, because what happens next will truly surprise you. There was a billionaire CEO named Robert Hayes. He was very successful and ran one of the largest tech companies in the country. However, Robert wasn't like the other CEOs. He had been in a car accident a few years ago that left him in a wheelchair. Since the accident, Robert became cold and distant. He didn't trust people easily, and he focused only on his work. He didn't have time for love, and he certainly didn't want any distractions. But everything changed one rainy afternoon. It was a regular day for Robert at the office. He was busy with meetings when his assistant Laura knocked on the door. "Mr. Hayes, we have a new employee. Her name is Jennifer Clark. She's a single mother, and we need her help in the office. I believe she's perfect for the job." Robert looked up. He wasn't interested. Another employee? Just another face in the crowd. He nodded and told Laura to send Jennifer in. When Jennifer walked into the office, Robert barely looked up from his work. She was young, dressed simply, and looked tired. She had a warm smile, but there was something in her eyes that caught Robert's attention. Jennifer had 2 kids, and she worked hard to support them after her husband left. "Mr. Hayes," Jennifer said softly, her voice almost like a whisper. Robert finally looked up and saw her standing there, her tired eyes filled with a kind of sadness. She looked nothing like the polished, confident professionals he was used to. "Miss Clark," Robert said, nodding, "let's keep this brief. You'll be in charge of managing the office schedules and organizing the files. That's all you'll need to do. I don't like complications." Jennifer nodded, trying her best to hide her nervousness. She had always worked hard to support her children and hoped this job would help her get by. As she walked out of the room, Robert watched her for a moment. There was something about her that felt different. He couldn't put his finger on it, but it was almost as if she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Yet her heart still shone through. Days passed, and Jennifer did her job well. She was quiet and efficient, always going the extra mile to help others. She took the job seriously, even though she was dealing with her own struggles at home. Her children, Ella and Lucas, were both young and needed her, but she did her best to balance everything. One evening, as Robert was leaving the office, he overheard a conversation between Jennifer and a colleague. She was talking about how her son had been sick for the past few days. Robert overheard the sadness in her voice, and something stirred inside him. "Jennifer, you're still here?" Robert asked as he approached her desk. "Is everything okay?" Jennifer was surprised that Robert even noticed her. "Oh yes, Mr. Hayes. Just trying to finish some work." Robert frowned. "You should go home and take care of your son. Family comes first." Jennifer smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes, but I need to make sure the work gets done. I can't afford to fall behind." Robert watched her for a moment. There was something about the way she cared for others, especially her children, that made him feel different. He had been so focused on his work, and here she was, working harder than anyone he knew, yet still trying to be the best mother she could be. That night, Robert couldn't stop thinking about Jennifer. He thought about her struggles and her kindness. He even found himself wondering how she was doing with her son. The next day, Robert decided to do something he had never done before. He called Jennifer into his office and handed her an envelope. "This is for you," Robert said. "I know things have been tough, and I wanted to help." Jennifer's eyes widened as she opened the envelope. Inside, there was a check with a large sum of money written on it. I can't accept this, Mr. Hayes," Jennifer said, her voice shaking. "I don't want charity." "I'm not giving it to you as charity," Robert replied, his voice firm. I'm giving it to you because you deserve it. You've worked hard, and I admire your strength." Tears filled Jennifer's eyes as she stared at the check. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. You don't know what this means to me." Robert looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, he smiled. "I've been cold for too long," he said quietly. "You've reminded me that there's more to life than just work. Maybe, maybe it's time for me to start living again." Jennifer looked at him, surprised. She never expected the cold-hearted billionaire CEO to say something like that. As she left his office that day, Jennifer felt a warmth in her heart. She knew that things weren't going to be easy, but maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new. And Robert, well, he wasn't sure what it was, but something about Jennifer had softened him. He began to look at life differently. Maybe there was more to life than just being the successful CEO. Maybe he could open his heart again, but he couldn't let her go just yet, not without telling her how he felt. The next day, Robert asked Jennifer to meet him for coffee. "Jennifer," he said as they sat at a small table, "I've been thinking about everything you've done. You've shown me something I've been missing for years. Kindness. And I think I'm starting to feel something for you. I don't know what it is, but I can't ignore it." Jennifer's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could Robert, the cold billionaire CEO, actually be falling for her? She looked at him, unsure of what to say. "Mr. Hayes, I don't know what to say. I've been focused on taking care of my kids, and I never imagined someone like you would care about someone like me." Robert smiled softly. "Maybe we've both been missing something, Jennifer. Maybe we should see where this goes. I don't want to be alone anymore." Jennifer looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt hope. Jennifer smiled nervously. Her heart raced in her chest. She had always been careful about trusting people, especially men. She had been hurt before and didn't know if she was ready to open her heart again. But there was something about Robert. His sincerity was unlike anything she had seen before. "I don't know, Robert," Jennifer said softly. "I have my children to take care of. I can't afford to get distracted by something that might not work out." Robert nodded, understanding her hesitation. "I know you have your responsibilities. I'm not asking you to rush into anything, but I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to take it slow. I just don't want to miss this chance." Jennifer paused for a moment, looking at him. The way he spoke, the care he showed, it was unlike anything she had experienced before. She knew he was a billionaire, someone who could have anything he wanted, but he wasn't looking for someone to fit into his perfect life. He was looking for someone who was real, someone who understood struggles. "I'm scared, Robert," Jennifer admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm scared of getting hurt again, scared of giving my heart to someone and then losing it all." Robert reached across the table, gently taking her hand. "I can't promise that everything will be perfect, Jennifer, but I can promise that I'll be here for you. I'll support you, and I'll do everything I can to make sure you feel safe with me." Jennifer's heart melted. She wasn't used to hearing those words, especially from someone as successful and powerful as Robert. She had always been the one to protect herself, but now it felt like someone was offering to protect her too. "I'm not used to letting people in," she said, looking down at their intertwined hands, "but I'm willing to try if you are." Robert smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I'm more than willing, Jennifer. Let's take this one step at a time." From that moment on, something changed. Jennifer began to see Robert in a new light, not as the cold-hearted CEO, but as a man who had a softer side, a man who cared. She started to let down her walls, slowly allowing herself to be vulnerable with him. As for Robert, he was surprised by how much he enjoyed spending time with Jennifer. Her kindness, her strength, and her ability to love unconditionally opened something in him that he thought he had lost forever. He had always pushed people away, thinking that love would only cause pain. But with Jennifer, he felt differently. Their relationship grew over the following weeks. They spent time getting to know each other, sharing stories about their lives. Robert learned about Jennifer's struggles as a single mother, the challenges she faced every day, and the sacrifices she had made for her children. In turn, Jennifer learned about Robert's past, the loneliness he had felt after his accident, the difficulty of living with a disability, and the weight of running a successful business. But as much as they grew closer, there was always a part of Jennifer that wondered if this would last. She had never imagined being with someone like Robert, and she feared that one day he would grow tired of her simple life. She was afraid that when things got hard, he might walk away. One evening after a long day at work, Jennifer sat with Robert in his office, staring out at the city lights. "Robert, I have to ask you something," she said, her voice quiet but serious. "Anything, Jennifer," he replied, looking at her with concern. "Are you sure about this? About us?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. "I mean, I'm not like the women you're used to. I don't have the kind of life that fits with your world. I'm just a single mom trying to get by." Robert took her hand, pulling her closer. "Jennifer, what I've learned is that what truly matters is the person you are, not the life you've had. You're strong, kind, and everything I've been looking for. I don't care about the world you come from. I care about you." Jennifer felt a rush of emotions. She had always thought that someone like Robert would never want someone like her. But here he was, telling her that he cared about who she was, not what she had. "I'm not used to this," Jennifer admitted. "I've always felt like I had to do everything on my own. And now, I don't know. I don't want to let you down." "You're not letting me down," Robert said softly. "You don't have to do everything alone anymore. I'm here for you, and I'm not going anywhere." Tears welled up in Jennifer's eyes, and she leaned into Robert's embrace. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She had found someone who cared for her and her children, someone who was willing to stand by her side through the ups and downs. But even as they held each other, Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship would face challenges. She had always been the one to protect her heart, and now she wasn't sure what would happen if things got complicated. Would Robert still want her when the reality of their different worlds set in? Would they be able to overcome the obstacles in their path? As they sat there together, neither of them had the answers, but they knew one thing for sure: they were willing to try. Over the next few days, Jennifer couldn't help but think about Robert's words. They had spent a lot of time together, and it felt like they were building something real. But she still couldn't push away the doubts that lingered in her mind. She wasn't sure if she could handle the complexities of a relationship with someone so wealthy, especially when she had so many responsibilities with her kids. Jennifer knew she needed some time to think, to make sure that she wasn't rushing into anything. But she also didn't want to push Robert away, not when he had been nothing but kind and understanding. One evening after putting the kids to bed, Jennifer sat down with a cup of tea. Her thoughts swirled as she stared out the window. She couldn't deny that she was starting to feel something for Robert, something that went beyond the attraction she had felt at first. But there were still so many unanswered questions. How would they make it work? Could they truly find a balance between their different lives? The next morning, she received a text message from Robert. "Good morning, Jennifer. I was thinking we should take a little trip this weekend, just the two of us. Somewhere quiet to talk and get away from everything for a while. What do you think?" Jennifer felt a flutter in her stomach. The idea of spending time alone with Robert, away from the distractions of work and daily life, seemed appealing. It might give her the space she needed to think clearly. After a few moments of hesitation, she replied, "That sounds nice. Let's do it." They agreed to meet at a small cabin Robert owned in the mountains. It was a quiet retreat, far from the hustle and bustle of city life. Jennifer wasn't sure what to expect, but she felt that a weekend away might give her the clarity she needed. When Jennifer arrived at the cabin, she was surprised by how cozy and welcoming it felt. The small fireplace crackled in the corner, and large windows let in the soft light of the morning sun. The air smelled fresh, and the mountains loomed in the distance, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Robert greeted her at the door with a warm smile. He looked more relaxed than she had ever seen him. His usual stern CEO demeanor had softened, and he seemed genuinely happy to see her. "Glad you could make it," Robert said, stepping aside to let her in. Jennifer smiled. "This place is beautiful. It's one of my favorite spots. I come here when I need to clear my head," he explained as they settled on the couch by the fire. They spent the first part of the weekend simply talking, sharing stories, laughing, and getting to know each other even better. Jennifer felt a warmth between them, something that made her forget about the differences in their worlds. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to be on guard. But as the weekend went on, the question that had been lingering in Jennifer's mind resurfaced. Could they really make this work? Late one evening, as they sat outside under the stars, Robert turned to her. "Jennifer, I know I haven't asked you this yet, but I need to know, what are you looking for in all this? I don't want to push you into something you're not ready for." Jennifer sighed, looking up at the stars. "I don't know. I want to believe that this could be something real, but I've been hurt before, and I don't want to get my hopes up just to have them crushed." Robert reached out, gently taking her hand. "I understand your fear, but I promise you I'm not like the others. I care about you, Jennifer, and I'm not going anywhere." Jennifer felt a tear slide down her cheek. She had never had someone be so honest and patient with her before. The connection between them felt undeniable, and for the first time, she allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, they could overcome the obstacles in their path. The weekend ended all too quickly, and as they headed back to the city, Jennifer felt a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. She had been with Robert for 2 days in the mountains, but now they had to face the reality of their lives again, his demanding job and her responsibilities as a single mother. The next few weeks were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. Jennifer continued to see Robert, but the pressures of her life began to weigh on her. She struggled to balance time for herself, her kids, and Robert. Meanwhile, Robert's work was pulling him in all directions, and he began to spend long hours at the office, barely having time to see Jennifer. One day after a particularly stressful week, Jennifer received a message from Robert. "Can we talk tonight? I've been thinking a lot, and I want to see where we are." Jennifer's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't heard from him in a few days, and she wondered if something had changed. Was he starting to feel the strain too? That evening, they met at a small cafe, and Robert wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. "Jennifer, I know things have been tough lately. I've been busy with work, and you've been busy with your kids. But I don't want that to get in the way of what we have. I care about you too much to let this fall apart." Jennifer nodded, her throat tight. "I feel the same way, Robert, but I'm afraid that we're too different. I have a lot of responsibilities, and I don't want to hold you back from your life." Robert reached across the table, taking her hand once again. "Jennifer, you're not holding me back. I want to be with you, and I'm willing to figure this out. We'll take it one step at a time. Together." Jennifer looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. But the real test was still ahead of them, facing the realities of their very different lives and finding a way to make it all fit. Would love be enough to bring them together, or would their worlds be too far apart? As the days passed, Jennifer found herself thinking more and more about her relationship with Robert. She had never expected it to grow so deep, so quickly. The connection they shared felt real, but there were still so many unanswered questions. Could their love survive the pressure of their very different worlds? She spent most of her time focusing on her children and her job, trying not to get too lost in her feelings for Robert. But when she wasn't thinking about her responsibilities, he was always there in her thoughts, smiling, reassuring her that everything would be okay. One evening, as they were having dinner together, Robert turned to Jennifer with a serious expression on his face. "Jennifer, there's something I need to tell you," he said softly. Jennifer's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to sound so serious. "What is it, Robert?" He sighed and leaned back in his chair. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our future, and I know that we both come from different worlds, but I'm willing to make this work. I want to be a part of your life, Jennifer. I want to be there for you and your children, no matter what." Jennifer felt her chest tighten. She wanted to believe him, but the doubt still lingered. "I appreciate that, Robert. I really do. But you know that my life isn't easy. It's not as simple as it looks. My kids, my job, all the responsibilities. It's a lot. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "I am," Robert replied firmly. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You and your kids are everything I want. I'm ready to be there for all of you." Jennifer looked at him, her heart filling with warmth. But there was still one thing she needed to ask. "But what about your business, Robert? Your career? You're a billionaire CEO. Don't you have too much on your plate to focus on us?" Robert smiled, reaching across the table to take her hand. "I've built this business for years, Jennifer. I've worked hard for everything I have. But the more I have, the more I realize that what truly matters is the people you care about. I'm not going to let my work get in the way of what we're building together." Jennifer looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly believe that he was serious about her, that he wasn't just saying the right things, but that he truly meant them. "Okay," she said softly, squeezing his hand. "If you're sure, then I'm willing to try. But I need to know that you'll be patient with me and with my life. It's not perfect, but I'm doing my best." "I'll be patient," Robert promised. "We'll take this one day at a time, together." They both smiled, feeling a sense of peace that had been missing before. There was still a lot to figure out, but for the first time in a long time, Jennifer felt like everything might just be okay. As the weeks passed, their relationship blossomed. Robert spent more time with Jennifer and her children, making an effort to understand their needs and the challenges they faced. He never pushed her, never tried to rush anything. Instead, he supported her in every way he could, whether it was helping with the kids or simply being there when she needed someone to talk to. But even with all the progress they made, there was still one thing on Jennifer's mind. Her fear of losing herself in the relationship, of forgetting the woman she had been before she met Robert. One evening, as they sat in his penthouse apartment, Jennifer spoke up. "Robert, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I love spending time with you, I really do. But I don't want to lose myself in all of this. I've worked so hard to get to where I am, and I can't forget about my own goals and dreams." Robert nodded, understanding her concern. "I respect that, Jennifer. You are your own person, and I would never want you to lose that. You've built a life for yourself, and I want to support you in whatever you choose. But just know that I'm here for you, and I'll always have your back." Jennifer smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to choose between her relationship and her dreams. Robert wasn't asking her to give up anything. He was offering to be a part of her life without trying to control it. As they spent more time together, Jennifer began to realize that Robert wasn't just a billionaire CEO. He was a man who truly cared, who wanted to build something meaningful with her, and that made all the difference. But even as their bond grew stronger, Jennifer couldn't help but wonder, could this love really survive the pressure of their different worlds? Would they be able to make it work despite all the challenges? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Jennifer wasn't going to give up on this love, not without giving it her all. And as for Robert, He had never been more certain about anything in his life. He knew that Jennifer was the one he wanted to build a future with, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. Together, they began to forge a new path, a path that would lead them to a future neither of them could have imagined on their own. As the months passed, Jennifer and Robert continued to grow closer. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared commitment to each other. Jennifer remained dedicated to her children and her career, but with Robert's unwavering support, she was able to balance both. Her life had become richer, not just in material wealth, but in love and understanding. One day, Robert surprised Jennifer with a small, intimate gathering of close friends and family at his penthouse. As they sat down to eat, he stood up, holding a small box in his hand. "Jennifer," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "we've been through so much together, and you've taught me what really matters in life. You've shown me love, patience, and strength, and I can't imagine a future without you in it." With that, he opened the box, revealing a beautiful ring. "Will you marry me, Jennifer? Will you be the love of my life forever?" Jennifer's heart skipped a beat. Tears welled up in her eyes. She looked around at the people who had supported them, and then back at Robert, the man who had changed her life. Without hesitation, she nodded. "Yes, yes, Robert, I will marry you." The room erupted in applause, but all Jennifer could feel was the warmth of Robert's hand holding hers. They had made it through so much already, and now they were ready to take the next step together. Their wedding was a small, private ceremony, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Robert's cold heart had truly melted, and Jennifer had found a love she never thought was possible. Together, they built a future filled with love, hope, and dreams that they would share. As for Jennifer, she never gave up on her dreams either. She continued to build her career, always supported by Robert's encouragement. They had found a balance, one that worked for both of them. The couple's life was filled with moments of joy, challenges, and triumphs. But one thing remained constant: their love for each other. And no matter what life threw their way, they knew they would face it together. Because true love, they realized, could conquer anything. And so their story continued, a story of love, growth, and a future filled with endless possibilities. Thank you for joining us on this Heartline story. Will their love survive all the challenges ahead? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.